Ada for informing my husband that, like his father, he is, in fact, my 31F husband 31M and I have 4 children, a boy, 9M a daughter, 8F and twins, 5M. My husband and I were overjoyed when we had our first 2 children. And we're just overjoyed. Given the fact that they were twins, the twins were a great surprise. Aren't common in either of our families, but we opted to retain them nonetheless. My husband's attitude toward the twins has shifted dramatically. I understand how exhausting it is. We have other small children running about as well, but we are not overburdened. My mother, who is still young and active, stays with us. And she typically looks after the kids when she is able. We're also not short on cash, as both of us come from well-to-do households. However, I know that when it comes to parenting, that isn't always enough. So I made a decision. Instead of moping around or being aloof, he's become quite harsh to the twins. He's always finding something to yell at them for. He yells at them for being identical as if they did it on purpose. In addition, he is the ideal father figure for my elder children. He only acts strangely around the twins. I'd had enough when my youngest inquired why his father despises him and whether I wanted him to vanish as well. There is no way a small child would lie about something like this. I don't believe he has the mental capacity to concoct such nonsense. I was either enraged and addressed my husband, who was fast asleep in the bedroom. I inquired as to his problem and the reason for his confinement. He was perplexed. So I explained, and he immediately accused my son of lying and uttering rubbish. Obviously, I didn't believe him and informed him that he resembled his father. He took what he needed and departed the house. I'm not sure where he went in. Please, Adam, make a side note. Husband's father had been. He was frequently absent and cheated on his wife. My spouse has discovered that he will never be like him and becomes enraged whenever his father is mentioned. Anyway, my mother, who witnessed the entire incident, told me that I did the right thing by shouting at him, but that I should not have named his father. My sister, who I subsequently phoned, agreed and encouraged me to create a post on here just to see. So I tell him about my spouse, how he is precisely like his deck. Upbeat. So I'm posting here since the topics I'm going to discuss may or may not be alive on Ada. Also, it's probably too early to make any changes there. So, first and foremost, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for your contributions. I read every single response and took everything you said into mind. Second, when I indicated that my husband and I opted to keep the twins, I meant that we had to ponder long and hard about me giving birth. My first 2 pregnancies were difficult, and the doctor said that twins would be even more difficult. We ultimately decided to keep the kids and pray to God that I would be okay. It was difficult. I almost went past unnoticed. I had previously mentioned my husband's behavior, and he had always told me that I was overanalyzing or overreacting to him. I was doing 2 things according to him. I genuinely believed I was going insane and that my husband was mistreating the twins, but my son's face proved that I was correct the entire time and that I should not have allowed it go on as long as I did. And I went off on him. Yes, I said it to offend him. But I also remarked that I hope he realizes he is turning into a dick of a man just like him. Now, for the update. So, a few hours after I wrote the post, my husband messaged me, apologizing for leaving the house suddenly and shouting, and so on. When I asked him where he was, he answered he was at his brother's place. I encouraged him to get comfy because he was never going to return home. After that, I asked him if we might meet later. And he replied, sure. So I went over to his brother's house the next morning and we talked, and I'm going to keep this as brief as possible. So I'll skim through the irrelevant information. So, first and foremost, I apologize for comparing him to his father, not for shouting at him. And he replied that was all right. He, too, apologized. Then I asked him why he was being such a jerk to the twins. It took him some time to tell me the truth, but he did as many of you urged. He stated that he did not consider them to be his offspring. Apparently, the kids do not resemble him in appearance or behavior. And he got a horrible sense from her. I rolled my eyes at the negative feelings part, but I informed him that I had not cheated on him and that just because they don't look like him, but rather like me, doesn't mean they aren't his children. He claimed he trusted me, but something about the twins seemed odd. I told him he wasn't making sense and that he needed to visit a therapist as soon as possible. He seemed disheartened before saying he would, so I compelled him to arrange an appointment right then and there. I then warned him that he wasn't going near any of the kids until they dealt out his problems since he was going to have a big impact on them. I highlighted how much words hurt and how kids remember at this point, and I had some optimism that he would get better, that there was a little chance of us becoming a family again. But then I asked him a follow-up question. Was he ever physically abusive to our twins? Someone mentioned that in the replies to one of my strange blogs, and it was killing me. I had to know. But only a few times, he added, when they were being tough, was he taken aback. He hit our kids, and I had no idea. He claimed that it wasn't difficult and that the twins were hurling objects and refusing to calm down. So he smacked them. He had no intention of doing so, and lost control. I didn't want to hear any more and quickly left before doing anything. I returned home, and when my mother inquired how it went, I burst into tears. In her arms, I sobbed. I'm not sure where I went wrong or why things was going so poorly. You read about these things in the news or in movies, but you never imagine it might happen to you or your children. I then checked on my children. I first asked my twins whether they had ever heard anything like that, and they responded yes. And one of them even stated he was frightening. I asked my eldest if his father had ever heard them, and they responded no. I questioned the twins and my son if they had ever seen Dad with and they answered no, but my daughter did. She even stated that they had earned it. That even wrecked me. I explained that my daughter had begun to treat the twins as if they were her father, but that I had managed to stop her. Obviously, she isn't harsh to them in front of them anymore, but it's clear she thinks low of them. So, taking use of the money I am fortunate enough to have, I decided to place all of them in therapy with the best people I could locate when they inquired about their father's whereabouts. I informed them that he was working late and would not be returning home for a while. I'm not sure if that was the proper decision, but I don't want a man who strikes kids in my house or I'm simply numb. I've cried so much that I can't cry any longer. I can't be furious since I've been allowing this to happen for so long. I can't feel bad because I need to be strong for my kids. I'm still at a loss on what to do. As I've said a million times before, I'm completely numb. It's as if all of my joy has been taken out of me. Fortunately, my sister moved in, but she and my mother have been quite supportive. I thought writing about it and letting it all out would help me feel better, but I'm still having flashes of rage, despair, guilt, and so on. And I go, no, I know I'm making this about myself, but I don't know how to deal with all of this information being thrown at me in one day, but I'm going to be strong for my children. I'm going to hire the greatest attorney I can find. And I'm going to do everything I can to safeguard my children. Whether or not I let my husband into my life or the lives of my children is still a question. For me, because my eldest two have remarked how much they miss Dad. I'll see how things go, but I'm not sure I'll ever be able to trust him again. He's messaged me a couple times since our talk, apologizing. And that he didn't really dislike our twins, but I'm not sure. And, yes, thank you once more. For the replies and private communications, I used random strangers from the internet. I'm not sure whether my post was gratifying, and I doubt I'll update again because I'm going to devote all of my time to assisting my children, but I wish you all a wonderful holiday season. Thank you very much.